Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I'm your host, Jesse Tapia. Alright, so today's show, first segment, we're going to be talking about the Super Bowl game, obviously. Going to make my pick for that one. Going to talk about anything surrounding the game, talk about the game itself, and like I said, it's pretty much anything, like any outside stuff. All right, we'll be doing that. Second segment, we're going to be talking about a couple of Hall of Fame finalists. Talk about who should be in there and who probably won't be in there, but should have been in there 2 years ago. All right, I'm sure we all know who that guy is. So we'll talk about that. Might be going on a nice little rant about it. We'll talk about the Ravens in segment 3. And then for segment 4, as we always do, just talk about anything else going on in football, whether it be who's going to take over once the Patriots are done. Is Tom Brady possibly going to retire after the season? I don't think he is, but I've been seeing people bring that up quite a bit, actually. So maybe talk about that. Who's going to take over once the Pats dynasty is done, or is the Pats dynasty going to be done once Brady leaves? So we'll talk about all that stuff, all right? Like I said, fourth segment is pretty much anything that runs through my mind, any like news notes or anything like that going on in the football world. So let's talk football. Let's talk Pats Eagles. Actually, before that, did anyone get a chance to check out the Two Bills documentary, 30 for 30 on ESPN yesterday? I've been seeing more and more. Bill Belichick's looking like he's starting to enjoy himself a little bit more as far as with the media and talking to other people, because Bill Belichick's pretty much been a closed book diary type of person, dealing with the media and all those other people. All right, pretty interesting to see him pretty much open up about talking about his professional career with Bill Parcells and all that. Like, you'd never really expect that with Bill Belichick, because like I said, he's been so close to everyone so far in his coaching career. And it was funny too, like I was watching it and it was just like Bill Parcells has that presence to where you think like, oh wow, that's like Bill Parcells, he's better than Bill Belichick, and you think, oh no, Bill Belichick has 5 Super Bowls, Parcells has 2, and Bill Belichick's probably about to win another one. So yeah, Bill Belichick's the greatest coach of all time, but Bill Parcells still has that little presence when you see him. All right, so yeah, that was a pretty cool documentary. Learned a lot there. And then one thing, too, that I've noticed about the Super Bowl as far as this week, it doesn't feel like Super Bowl week if you think about it. Like, there's no real big hype around it. It's not being covered as well as it should be. Usually media day is a big thing during the Super Bowl week, and it's just one of those fun things. But no one really even talked about that. Like, I don't even know when that was this week, or if that was just the first day on Monday, I believe. Like, I'm not sure. Like, it just really hasn't been covered well at all. Like, ESPN hasn't really been covering it too much, or at least as much as they should be. I don't think Fox Sports has been. I know like people like sites like Pro Football Talk from NBC and all that. They've been covering it too, or they have been covering it. But the Super Bowl, like, it's feeling like it's going to be a low-rated game, probably one of the lower-rated Super Bowls of probably in the last 5 years, if we're being real here. Like I said, usually like when it's the Super Bowl week, there's like this like feeling in the air, you know? It's like, oh, like football, like it's pretty much it's the biggest game of the year. And it just doesn't feel that way. It feels like maybe it has to do with the fact that it's Tom Brady versus Nick Foles, and people are already writing Nick Foles off, that the Eagles have no shot. And I hope people aren't doing that, because of the fact that we know what the Eagles have done so far in this postseason, and they've looked extremely good with Nick Foles as their quarterback. All right, I know the narrative is that, oh, he's a backup quarterback. Is this going to hurt Philly? Most likely. It's Tom Brady versus Nick Foles. It's Belichick versus Doug Peterson. People were pretty much just building up the narratives to where I already see it. All right, people are building up to where it's pretty much David versus Goliath here. Obviously, Goliath should win, but in the book, David wins, as we know. All right, I think everyone's trying to set it up to where if the Patriots win, it's like, oh, yeah, it's no news. I mean, everyone thought. And if the Eagles win, then it's one of the biggest Super Bowl upsets of all time. Nick Foles is a hero. How did this happen? Tom Brady, Bill Belichick lose another Super Bowl, lose their third. All right, is this it for Tom Brady? Is this it for Bill Belichick? Those are the questions that are going to be asked, all right, as far as what happens if the Patriots lose the Super Bowl. All right, with the fact that, I don't know if you football guys checked it out, but ESPN had an article that came out yesterday, I believe it was, about how, or a couple of nights ago, about how LeBron James, if the Warriors clear up enough cap space or whatever, they could have a meeting with LeBron James and free agency and all that. Of course, it's not going to happen, but ESPN is starting to do these little sensationalized articles and stuff like that to where, I mean, it's all hypotheticals and nothing will ever happen. So as I said, they're pretty much building it up to where they can go all crazy with it after the game if the Patriots lose. But nonetheless, it's going to be interesting to see how this game ends up. All right, because in reality, I mean, yeah, it is a backup quarterback playing in this one, Nick Foles, but it's a backup quarterback who's been playing extremely well. And I'm still not too sure what happens to Nick Foles after this season. Does he leave? Does he get cut? Does he get traded? Or does Philly think, you know what? It's hard to come by, hard to get good backup quarterbacks. Let's just give him a nice little contract and make him our backup quarterback for the rest of his career. All right, because obviously when Wentz gets healthy and comes back, he's the guy. All right, this isn't going to be one of those quarterback controversies or anything like that. Even if Foles goes out and throws for over 400 yards and 3 touchdowns. I guarantee you it won't be the case. All right, Carson Wentz, even if that crazy game does happen for Nick Foles, will be the starter. So, I mean, it's pretty much up to what the Eagles want to do with him. I know he's under contract for 2 more years, but they could cut him before February 19th or something like that if they don't want to pay him anymore. They just want to say, you know what, thanks for helping us win a Super Bowl. Go out, go get a starting job, go get paid. I'm not sure, but nonetheless, he is a backup quarterback. Even if he did leave, let's say he does leave after the Super Bowl or whatever, wins it, he's not going to be as good as he was with Philly. All right, Nick Foles can't do it for 16 games, believe it or not. And he needs a real solid team around him to play well. Because if you think about it, in reality, I mean, when he was on that Eagles team where he threw 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, I think they still had LaShawn McCoy at that time, Deshaun Jackson. All right, you had guys like Jeremy Maclin who were playing well. And pretty much that team was stacked all around. So, I mean, Nick Foles only plays well when you get the best of the best around him. So, we'll see how it all ends up for him. But as far as the game goes, I mean, he's going to have to play extremely well. He's going to have to throw for at least 300 yards and have a couple of touchdowns probably in order to give this team the best chance to win. Because I think people might be wondering, like, oh, is the Eagles defense going to be able to slow down Tom Brady? And maybe they think they are. But I don't see it. I think Tom Brady's going to have a great game here. All right, I saw a stat, I think it was last week, talking about players' quarterback ratings when they are under pressure. League average is around 85, I think like that, 84, something like that around there. But Tom Brady's, and again, this is like putting pressure on Tom Brady as far as knocking him down, getting him, sacking him is pretty much how you beat him. But I saw the stat that said Tom Brady's quarterback rating was about 96.7, I think it was, when he's under pressure. And again, that's how you're supposed to beat the guy. Are you supposed to beat him by getting pressure on him? And if you're not sacking him, at least knocking him down. And if he's playing that well, then it's going to be difficult for you to go out and do that. So, I mean, it's going to be a weird game, I feel. It could go both. Like, it could be a close game, or it could just be a Patriots blowout. The only way it's a close game is if the Eagles, like, if it makes any sense, like, that's the only chance the Eagles have of winning if it's close. I mean, the Eagles aren't going to go out and blow out the Patriots or anything like that. So it's going to be interesting to see. Now we got to see what, like I said, Tom Brady versus this Philly defensive line. Plus, we're going to see what Dion Lewis can do against this defensive line. I mean, it's one of the best defensive lines in football. So is Dion Lewis going to be able to get in between the tackles and pick up a bunch of yards on the ground? Or is he going to have to make most of his production as far as catching the ball at the backfield and pretty much getting into open space and getting yards that way? I think it's probably going to be that way. I don't see him really getting too many yards on the ground. I mean, he hasn't ran the ball all too well so far in this postseason. That really doesn't have anything to do with him. I mean, he faced the number 4 rush defense in Tennessee statistically. Didn't do much there. And then you got to face the Jacksonville Jaguars the week after. They're not going to give up much too either. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does against this Philly defense. But again, I don't see him getting too many yards on the ground. And James White's going to be a little X factor right here too. I mean, catching the ball at the backfield is going to be big for the Patriots right here. I mean, that's the only way they're going to be able to get the ball to the running backs and have them do anything. It's going to be interesting to see too how this Philly secondary matches up with the wide receivers of Danny Amendola, Brandon Cooks, Chris Hogan. Plus, Gronk's going to be playing this one, so what's Philly going to do? How are they going to game plan for him? It's going to be tough. You're going to put your linebackers on him? Are you sure they're quick and strong enough to keep up with a guy like Gronk and bring him down? Or are you going to put a safety like Malcolm Jenkins on Gronk and have him just shadow him the entire time? So it's going to be interesting to see there. And as far as the flip side of the ball, I mean, let's talk Eagles on offense, Patriots on defense. Like I said, Nick Foles, he's got to play well in this one. He can't have like a game manager Nick Foles type of game. He has to do extremely well. He pretty much has to have like the best game so far. He needs to be pretty much just as good as he was against the Vikings. He puts up a game like that, then they're going to be pretty set, and it'll keep the game close. But if he's out here throwing for maybe like 240 yards and a touchdown, the Eagles really don't got a shot in this one. Because like I said, I don't really expect that Philly defense to come up with a lot of stops against this New England offense. Just because it's Tom Brady, it makes everyone around him better. All right. And as far as like the wide receivers go, it's going to be interesting to see how Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith do against Stephon Gilmore and Malcolm Butler. If it was me personally, I'm putting Gilmore on Jeffrey because I think he sizes up a bit better, and Gilmore has been something else in these playoffs. He's been playing extremely well, so it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. I think Jai is going to do well on the ground. He's probably going to have at least over 110 all-purpose yards as far as catching and running the ball. I think he's going to go for around 85 yards rushing the ball and then out the backfield. I mean, Philly's been drawing up a nice little game plan for him as far as screens go and catching the ball out there. Plus, the Garrett Blount facing his old team. How's he going to do against them? Is he going to be just on 3rd and 1 type of opportunities in the goal line also, or is he just going to have a bigger role in this game plan in the Super Bowl? I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and I'm not even sure really who I want to go with right now. I mean, I was leaning towards Philly yesterday. Right now, I'm leaning towards New England. I think I'm going to have to pick New England for this game. All right, it's going to be Bill Belichick. I'm going with New England, I think, because of the fact that Tom Brady and Bill Belichick, they've been here year after year, it feels like. All right, they're currently constantly in the AFC Championship. All right, and this is their 8th Super Bowl. Okay, New England has pretty much been they've ruined excellence, pretty much. They've brought it to such an unreal standard that's what you expect to see. And I don't know what the word is for it, but they're constantly executing it. All right, their biggest, I don't know what the word is to describe the Patriots. It's just unreal for what they've done. And I mean, as far as the Eagles go, I think it's going to be a nice little game for them, but this is the first time they've been in the Super Bowl since 2005, 2004, and you really have guys like Garrett Blount and Chris Long who have been in the Super Bowl, and that was with the Patriots last year. So, I mean, the Eagles don't have the experience. I don't think I can go with a backup quarterback, believe in him to lead this Eagles team to a Super Bowl win. I just don't see it happening. All right? I mean, actually, I do see it happening, but it's just unrealistic, I think. And Philly fans, I'm not sure what they're really expecting going into this game. I mean, this season is already a success if we're being real here for Philly. All right, when you have Carson Wentz go down, was it week 14, week 15, then you have Nick Foles come in. I'm sure most of Philly thought, yeah, we're done. It was a fun season, but what can you do? And then all of a sudden they're here. I hope they're not getting their hopes up too much. They should be happy already with how the season ended. And if the Super Bowl ends in their favor, then, I mean, that's just a plus right there. But I just don't see Nick Foles being the guy to lead Philly down the field, constantly put up points, and to beat Tom Brady and that team. All right, because obviously X's and O's, Philly does have the better team, and they shouldn't be considered an underdog. But like I said, I mean, this isn't just X's and O's. This is pretty much who's been here more. All right, the experience matters, coaching matters, quarterback matters. I mean, Tom Brady. Let's take the Tom Brady away from the Patriots in this game. Let's say Brian Hoyer, like Tom Brady gets hurt or whatever in the last practice of the week, and Brian Hoyer has to go out and start this one. All right, Patriots have no chance, right? No chance at all, obviously. But if you take Carson Wentz away from the Eagles, they're still a Super Bowl team. All right, Tom Brady means a whole lot more to that Patriots team than Nick Foles will ever mean to the Eagles team, because the Eagles are pretty much set, like with solid players at each position, so you just pretty much need them to do what they do. Just do your job, and it'll all work out. The Patriots, you need Tom Brady there to make everything work. You need Tom Brady there to get the ball into tough places with players like Brandon Cooks, Danny Amendola. All right, you need Tom Brady to be out there, so that way they're not stacking the box constantly against them, and you're able to get guys like Deion Lewis to go out and break off for good games. And you need Tom Brady out there in order to benefit the defense too, because Tom Brady isn't like Denver where he's going 3 and out every time. All right, Tom Brady's on the field for a majority of the game, so that leaves the defense well rested and pretty much focused for them. So, I mean, Tom Brady it's pretty much Tom Brady. He's the reason why the Patriots, I think, are going to win. He's going to go out for a big game, and I mean, it's going to be tough for Eagles fans, but I got the Patriots in this one. So that's my pick for this game. I think it's going to be a fun one, but nonetheless, I mean, I think experience and pretty much the fact that they constantly hear and Tom Brady knows what it takes to win is going to be one of the biggest factors in this game. So that's why I'm going with the Patriots. All right, so next up, we're going to be talking about the Hall of Fame. I'm going to talk about just pretty much pick a couple of players out there and talk about their careers. And we're going to be talking about Terrell Owens quite a bit too. So stay tuned for the next segment, and we'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Back to the GSMC Football Podcast. First up, we talked about the Super Bowl, made my pick for that game. Ended up picking the Patriots, but I do think it is going to be a close game. But going with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick in this one. So that's how I think that game's going to go. And now we're going to be talking about the Hall of Fame. All right. Finalists, or the Hall of Fame, who's going to be getting in. The 2018 Hall of Fame class, I should say, is going to be announced tomorrow during the NFL Honor Show. And the finalists are Tony Baselli, Isaac Bruce, Brian Dawkins, Alan Faneca, Steve Hutchinson, Joe Jacoby, Edgerrin James, Ty Law, Ray Lewis, John Lynch, Kevin Mawai, Randy Moss, T.O., Terrell Owens, for those that don't know him by T.O., Brian Urlacher, and Everson Walls. All right, so who's getting in? I think that Ray Lewis, he's a lock. All right, Ray Lewis is getting in for sure. I think Brian Dawkins is going to get in. And I think Randy Moss is going to get in. All right. And let's see. There should be another player who gets in, but I don't think he's going to. All right, so let's talk about that player in a little bit. But let's talk about pretty much Ray Lewis, Randy Moss, and Brian Dawkins. All right, so let's start off with Ray Lewis. Probably the best linebacker of all time. One of the best linebackers of all time. I know there's a certain guy named Lawrence Taylor that's regarded as probably the best defensive player of all time. All right, but Ray Lewis, I mean, from the time he was out there, from the time and then to the time he retired, I mean, was probably one of the best at his position, year in and year out. All right, pretty much when you saw Ray Lewis out there, you knew that you were going up against something bad. All right. I mean, the guy won a Super Bowl in 2000, won a Super Bowl. What was the year that the lights went out in New Orleans? I think that was 2012, I think. We had to go back a few Super Bowls. But nonetheless, I mean, Ray Lewis, one of the best of all time. Dude's a virtual lock, and he could very well be one of the best linebackers, is one of the best linebackers of all time, but could very well be in the argument for best linebacker of all time. Brian Dawkins was a great Eagles safety. All right. Pretty much one of the biggest constants on that team. Always there, huge leader, one of the best at his position from the late 90s to the early 2000s. All right, I think he's getting in for sure. All right, how about good old Randy Moss? Randy Moss is a top 3 receiver of all time. Could be argued that he is the best receiver of all time. I know people like to say Jerry Rice, but I don't know. Did Randy Moss ever use Stickum like Jerry did? I'm not too sure. But nonetheless, I mean, Randy Moss, there was that one year, the biggest year that stands out to me with Randy Moss, all right, because I was a little bit too young to remember Randy Moss with the Vikings, but the biggest season that I remember from Randy Moss was that 2007 year when he was with the Patriots, all right? Randy Moss was just purely unstoppable that season. I think he had like about 98 receptions that year, a little less than 1,500 yards. Broke the touchdown record, I believe it was, with 23 receiving touchdowns. I mean, the guy was unstoppable. All right. Him and Tom Brady together was just ridiculous. Okay. I mean, the guy would just run a go route, just go deep. Brady throws it up, and literally every time they did that play, it felt like you knew Randy Moss was coming down with it for a touchdown. I mean, that was the play that year for them. All right. Randy, go deep. I'll throw you the ball, and boom. It's pretty much a success every time, it felt like. All right, it was just ridiculous what those two did that season. I mean, it's just ridiculous how they didn't even win the Super Bowl that season, too. I mean, shout out to Eli Manning right there. That was, man, the Patriots not winning that Super Bowl was just crazy. I mean, they had one of the best offenses of all time, and then for them to go to the Super Bowl against the Giants and only put up 14 points is just crazy. But no, nonetheless, I mean, Randy Moss should be in the Hall of Fame this year. That should be a first ballot. I'm not sure if they're going to vote him in just because, I mean, people like to talk about Randy Moss, how he did take plays off, how he quit a couple of times as far as running his routes and all that. So that might be something that goes in the back of their mind. All right. But nonetheless, there's another player who should have got in 2 years ago. That's Terrell Owens. All right. The fact that Terrell Owens still isn't in the Hall of Fame and probably won't be this year is embarrassing. It's embarrassing, let me tell you that. All right, Terrell Owens, by far one of the best receivers of all time, up there with Jerry Rice and Randy Moss. And you know what? The same way you can make a case for Randy Moss being one of the best of all, being the best of all time, you can make that same case for Terrell Owens. Let me tell you. All right, dude is, I think, second all time in receiving yards, third all time among receivers and catches, I believe, or fifth either way. He's top 10, like among tight ends and all those guys. I think he's number 8th all-time in all-time receptions. And then as far as touchdowns, I think he is 5th. I think that's where he's 5th in touchdowns. All right. Terrell Owens, I get that people don't think that he should be a Hall of Famer because of the fact that he was a locker room distraction. And yeah, Terrell Owens was probably one of the biggest distractions in the locker room in NFL history. All right. I mean, the guy was a distraction with San Francisco, whether it was with Jeff Garcia. He was a distraction in Philly with Donovan McNabb, and he was a distraction in Dallas with Tony Romo. I mean, everywhere he went, he was just the loudest player there. All right, and I think T.O. might be a bit misunderstood as far as his emotions and all that, and I get that part of it too, but nonetheless, I mean, yeah, Terrell Owens, huge distraction wherever he went. Constantly wanted the ball, all right. I've seen, listened to interviews, read articles about how if his team would win, but he didn't get the ball too much that game, he wouldn't be completely happy about it. All right, yeah, T.O. is probably a me guy. All right, he's a me, get the ball to me type of guy. And I think that writers got to get over that. All right, the people who vote in the Hall of Fame, the Hall of Fame voters, they got to get over it. All right, Terrell Owens, without a doubt, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. There's no argument against it. All right, you can't just keep someone out because they were a bit of a not even a bit. I can't even say a bit. He was a huge distraction wherever he went, but you can't keep a guy out because of that. Because we got guys in the Hall of Fame who have done stuff a whole lot worse, all right, and they're still in there. All right, you got guys who were also locker room distractions. They're still in there. But you're going to tell me you're not going to put T.O. in there just because it's T.O. and he was a big distraction too? I'm not sure if it's the NFL Hall of Fame voters trying to teach T.O. a lesson. Oh, yeah, this is what happens when you're a distraction. You don't get to get into the Hall of Fame. I mean, that's just, it's dumb. It's dumb, the fact that T.O. is not in the Hall of Fame. All right, dude should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer. They took that away from him. Now you're going to make him wait even longer to get in? I feel like people are acting like it's in either Randy Moss gets in or T.O. gets in. If I had to make a pick for who gets in, it's going to be Randy Moss. All right, I'm not sure if it's because Randy Moss is now an NFL analyst, and I know now if you're an analyst with someone, I mean, pretty much they don't talk about your past. You see that with all of them. All right. So Randy Moss, now that he's with ESPN, I think it is, or with Fox, he used to be, I can't remember exactly, but now he's with those companies. You're not going to hear about how Randy Moss quit on plays and pretty much took plays off and just pretty much was a distraction sometimes, because he was. But since he's out here working with these media outlets and being an analysis and stuff I'm not trying to hit on Randy Moss either, all right? I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer also. But it's just, I'm comparing him to T.O. right now, and it's like, he's no different, really. I mean, yeah, T.O. was louder, but nonetheless, these were both distractions. And, I mean, I don't think T.O. ever quit. All right? So, like I said, just the fact that he's not in is just ridiculous. I mean, how can you keep someone out like that? And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that journalists, the people who vote in the Hall of Fame, they feel way too entitled, I feel. They feel like they're way more important. They take themselves seriously. They feel way more important than they actually are. All right, because, I mean, they're not, like, I'm trying to be like these guys, too. I'm trying to become a sports journalist, work for a newspaper or some little TV company or something like that one day. All right? But in reality, I mean, all we do is just watch other people do their job and write about it. We watch sports for a living and talk about it. That's it. You're not out here saving lives like doctors, putting out fires like firefighters, or stopping crime like cops. All right? You're out here talking sports. It's not any big time work or anything like that. It's easy. People say, oh, it's hard to be a journalist. No, it's probably hard to get on flights and go everywhere. It's not that hard to do it. All right? And I just think that's what it is. They feel too entitled, and they feel, you know what, Terrell Owens was a bad teammate, so we're not going to put him in because we don't think he should be. But in reality, T.O. should be in. He should have been in a couple years ago, like I said. All right? It's embarrassing to the fans. It's embarrassing to the NFL, and it's embarrassing to the Hall of Fame that Terrell Owens is still not in there. And when are they eventually going to vote him in? I feel like every year that passes, it makes it more difficult for T.O. to get in. I mean, eventually you're going to have other guys coming in who are probably extremely Hall of Fame worthy, and just because they weren't locker room distractions, you're going to have to vote them in as first ballots and as players who should get in too. All right, every year that T.O. is not in the Hall of Fame, I think it weakens his chances, I feel. Unless it is, like, it's like that. It's either you vote him in or they're just trying to teach him a lesson, dude. That's all it is right there. It has nothing to do with his stats or anything. It's just they're trying to teach Terrell Owens a lesson. All right? You hear guys like Stephen A. Smith saying he should be in. Shannon Sharp said he should be in. The guy should be in. All right? I don't care that he was a distraction in the locker room. Dude never got in trouble with the police or anything like that. Never failed a drug test or anything. Was probably one of the hardest workers in NFL history, if we're being real here. I mean, it's just ridiculous that Terrell Owens is still not in the Hall of Fame. But we're going to put Randy Moss in there just because he's an analysis now. We don't bring up how he quit on games. So that's all I got to say about that. Like I said, T.O. should be in the Hall of Fame, but I don't see it happening this year, and I'm not sure if it's going to happen next year either, just because of the fact that, I mean, these writers want to feel entitled and show that, oh yeah, we have power too. It's ridiculous. But nonetheless, that's going to be it for this segment. Next up, we're going to be talking about the Baltimore Ravens. We're going to talk about John Harbaugh, Ozzie Newsome, talk about what they need to do in the offseason, and pretty much how they can fare next season. All right, maybe we'll bring up Kirk Cousins and the Redskins not letting him know that they were trading for Alex Smith, or we'll just push that to the fourth segment. But nonetheless, that's going to wrap it up for this one. So stay tuned for the next, and we'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. So far in today's show, we made my pick, I should say, for the Super Bowl game. Picked New England think it's going to be a close, and it could go either way, but I'm going with New England. And then for the last segment, we talked about a couple of Hall of Famers and talked about how Terrell Owens should be in the Hall of Fame, but people are going to keep him out just because they want to teach him a lesson, I guess, which makes no sense to me. So here we are. We're going to talk Ravens in this segment. All right. We're going to talk John Harbaugh, Ozzie Newsome, and pretty much we're going to talk about the Ravens. That's all it is. All right. So let's get into it right now. So Ozzie Newsome came out today and said that he was going to be stepping down after this season as the Ravens GM. And that's going to be it's going to hurt the Ravens a bit. Ozzie Newsome's been around since that Super Bowl they won in 2000. Even a little bit before that, I believe. I mean, the guy constantly has been one of the best GMs in the league, if not the best. All right. Let's see. What are the nice things I want to say about Ozzie Newsome? I mean, year in and year out, I mean, the Ravens they've always been a defensive first team. All right, but Ozzie Newsome has always found a way to go out and get players on offense because obviously you need a complete team to win a Super Bowl, and he's done that twice. I mean, he built a team that won a Super Bowl with Trent Dilfer as their quarterback. He built teams who won Super Bowls with Trent Dilfer and Joe Flacco as their quarterbacks. Can you believe that? Like, think about that statement for a second. All right, because you know what? Now Joe Flacco is not that good if we're being real here. All right. Joe Flacco I think Joe Flacco used to be good, but I'm not sure what it is about him now. Like, he's just below average now. Joe Flacco was like, if that, below average. Remember we used to have the conversation about Joe Flacco, is he elite? Like, that used to be a real thing. Like, we used to do the same thing with Eli Manning, and yeah, obviously Eli Manning, I don't know, is Eli Manning elite? Now this has turned into a Joe Flacco, Eli Manning segment. All right, we're going to get back to the point, but now we got to talk about this. So, was Eli Manning, I think, is a first ballot Hall of Famer, but was the guy ever like elite? I think that for a couple of years, yeah, he was in the conversation with Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger, and all those guys, but I mean, Eli Manning was just like, he's got the stats. He's got the top 10 in passing yards, top 10 in passing touchdowns, 2 Super Bowls. I mean, I think he's 7th all-time in touchdowns and 6th all-time in passing yards, but we've never really thought of Eli Manning as an elite quarterback. And it's weird because, like I said, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, or at least he should be. All right? And as far as Joe Flacco goes, I can't believe we even ever had that conversation. Now that I know hindsight's 20/20 and all that, but man, Joe Flacco was a brutal quarterback now. But nonetheless, going back to Ozzie Newsome, I mean, the guy's always been able, just not even big name talent or anything like that. He just finds guys who fit the system and fit in and do their job well. All right. I mean, the Ravens have never had a strong offense by any means, but somehow, some way, they've always been good enough to help get there. And there I'm talking about to the playoffs and Super Bowls. All right. I mean, look at this past season. I mean, the Ravens went 9-7. They missed out on the playoffs, but nonetheless, I mean, that's a winning record right there. I mean, you had Mike Wallace, Jeremy Maclin, and you as your receivers, and both of those guys were hurt throughout the year. You had a guy like Alex Collins and Buck Allen be your running backs, and they played well. I mean, no one really thought much about them before this year. And then, like I said, Joe Flacco played poorly, and even in the defense, just kind of took a step back, but even then, still played well. So Ozzie Newsome has always done well to go out and get the right players and pretty much build a nice little defense to where, you know what, you don't have to spend too much on the offense. And that's one thing that I never realized, too. Maybe Ozzie Newsome always just built up the defense because those players were cheaper, and you know that if you have a strong defense, your offense doesn't have to do too much to win. So you don't got to go out and pay big-time offensive players to go out and put up big points because you don't need them. Maybe that's why they never did that. Maybe the Ravens are just cheap. But nonetheless, he's going to be stepping down after this year. He did say that he's going to be still with the Ravens, contributing with them, just not as the GM. So, I mean, I'm not sure how much of a step back they're going to take, but as far as bringing in players and all that personnel stuff, I mean, it's going to be rough after him. You have to bring in someone that knows exactly pretty much what they're doing, the same way Ozzie did. All right. So now let's talk about Jim Harbaugh for a bit. All right, good old John Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh's with Michigan. All right, so let's talk about John Harbaugh. The owner of the Ravens came out the other day, I think it was today maybe, and said that he considered firing John Harbaugh after the season. because it's the third straight year that they missed playoffs. Firing John Harbaugh would have been a huge mistake for the Ravens, I feel. Guy's one of the best coaches in the league. Won a Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. I mean, the guy knows how to coach. Him and Jim Harbaugh. I'm hoping that Michigan loses to Ohio State again this year and they fire Jim Harbaugh just so he can come back to the NFL. The NFL is way better when Jim Harbaugh's there. I mean, look what Jim Harbaugh did in San Francisco, all right? Had Alex Smith playing the best football of his career at the time. Alex Smith goes down. Kaepernick comes in. Had Kaepernick playing. ESPN was making headlines about him saying that he could end up being one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Could end up being possibly better than Joe Montana. You don't believe me? You can go search it up. ESPN was really making up headlines like that. I'll never forget Ron Jaworski was all over that, talking about Colin Kaepernick being one of the best of all time, possibly. All right. Jim Harbaugh built up a nice little defense for San Francisco. All right, Frank Gore playing running back. It was pretty much run the ball down your throat and hit you hard on defense. All right, and look what happened to the 49ers when Jim Harbaugh left or got fired. One of the worst moves that team could have made. Okay. They got rid of Jim Harbaugh, and everyone on that team, it seemed like, retired or just quit football. Everyone, I felt like. It was ridiculous. I ain't never seen anything like it. Just players dropping like flies. Boom, boom, boom. Gone. All right, Jim Harbaugh leaves. Colin Kaepernick didn't really amount to much after that. I mean, yeah, it had to do with the fact that his entire team was gone. Yeah, that actually, you know what? Yeah, Colin Kaepernick was never a bad quarterback, I don't think. I just think that the dude just really never had real talent around him after Jim Harbaugh left. But maybe we could push that to the next segment. Because we got to be talking about the Ravens right here. So yeah, like I said, the Ravens owner comes out and says that he thought about firing John Harbaugh. And he also said that after the season, Harbaugh's future isn't going to solely depend on them making the playoffs. If you don't make the playoffs, we're going to fire you. And I'm not sure how much I really believe that. Because if you already had it in your mind that you could possibly fire this coach after not making the playoffs for 3 years, if he doesn't make the playoffs again, you're going to fire him. All right? They're definitely going to fire Jim or John Harbaugh if he does not make the playoffs this season, I feel. All right? Because like I said, the fact that he brought it up and the fact that he even crossed his mind shows that, you know what? John Harbaugh's job isn't all that safe. So now going forward, what do you do in the offseason? And how do I think they're going to end up doing next season? Well, I think it's time that you go out and you draft a number one receiver. Or at least try and get someone to help out. All right. I'm not sure what they do at running back because they're going to be having Kenneth Dixon come back. And you're not really sure what you got in him because he got suspended for 4 games and then he got injured after that or something like that. But put on IR, I believe. But you still got Alex Collins and Buck Allen. They showed they could do a job. Joe Flacco, do you go and do you draft a replacement for Joe Flacco, like a backup, I mean? Eventually to take over for him? Because Joe Flacco just hasn't looked good the last couple of seasons. Just at all. All right, yeah, I get that he won a Super Bowl, but after that, I mean, the guy's just pretty much been all downhill since then. And you got to sharpen up that defense in the offseason. You don't do that, then they don't make playoffs. And it's going to be tough. Because you know what? The Bengals last couple of years haven't been great, but they still have talent on that team. And they could be a team that comes back and plays well and does end up making the playoffs next season, or at least competes for the playoffs next season. I mean, they almost did it this season, and then they lost the last couple of games. Steelers are still going to be the team to beat in that division. And then what about the Browns? Browns are a Kirk Cousins away from being a 7-8 win team. All right, so the Ravens have a lot to do this offseason in order to try and make the playoffs. And like I said, if they don't make the playoffs, then I think John Harbaugh's getting the boot. And if Harbaugh gets fired, I mean, that's going to be I don't know. Could you let's say that the Ravens don't make the playoffs again. 4 years in a row, I believe it is, if they don't. We know what kind of coach John Harbaugh is, but would it be the right move, even knowing that he's a great coach, to fire him? I mean, I know the NFL demands results, but I'm not sure. Like, them firing John Harbaugh would make sense, but it'd also be a mistake at the same time, if that makes any sense. All right, guy's a top 5 coach in the league. Always has his team playing well. And it's not like this year they missed the playoffs because they were bad. They missed the playoffs because, Andy Dalton had a crazy 4th down conversion touchdown play right there. And that's what ended their season. Bills made the playoffs on a fluke. So, I'm not sure really what happens with John Harbaugh going forward, but I don't think he should get fired even if they don't make the playoffs. I don't think they should, but also I think that it's okay. This is one of those really weird situations. John Harbaugh gets fired from the Ravens. He's gonna have no trouble finding another job after that. He's gonna be the most sought after coach if he gets canned from the Ravens. And maybe that's just what it is. Maybe just John Harbaugh and the Ravens has just run its course. All right. Because great coaches always leave and they always end up with a different team and get something going after that. Maybe that's just what it is. Maybe just John Harbaugh has overstayed his welcome with the Ravens. All right, it's not working out really. Joe Flacco just isn't the quarterback that he used to be. Or were you even sure that he ever was that quarterback? All right, maybe it's just that. And now it's just time for a new change of scenery. All right, Ozzie Newsome's going to be gone after this year. Well, he's going to be working with the Ravens still, but he won't be the GM, so he's not going to be as hands-on. Maybe it's just time after this year for John Harbaugh to be let go and just go find something else in the NFL. John Harbaugh, put it this way. John Harbaugh gets fired from the Ravens. He's not going to get the same years or type of money, but he could be near that as far as a John Gruden type contract signing with a new team. I wouldn't put it past any team to give John Harbaugh maybe 7 years, $70 million or something like that. I think John Gruden set a new precedent for how coaches are going to get paid, because I know, if you're a coach looking for a new job, like a John Harbaugh type, you got to be look what Gruden's getting. I want that. All right? Because John Harbaugh is a great coach, but we're just going to have to wait and see how it all ends up for him. And as far as the Ravens go, it's going to be difficult for them to make playoffs. Let's see. Do we have any teams who are playoff? In the AFC East, I don't think Buffalo's going to be back in the playoffs. I'm not sure about Miami. I doubt they will. As of right now, the Jets, they need a quarterback. AFC North, like I said, Cincinnati could be a talented team. It could get back to what they used to be. Cleveland, I said they're Kirk Cousins away from being 7-8 win team. Baltimore, they got to improve on defense and improve on offense mainly. All right, Steelers are still going to win that division. The AFC South could have it's going to have possibly 4 teams competing for playoff spots. AFC South is going to be tough. AFC West, if they get Kirk Cousins, or if Denver gets Kirk Cousins, that's a playoff team right there. Chiefs, what if Patrick Mahomes becomes a good quarterback this season? Chargers, already a good team. And Raiders, we're going to see what they can do with Gruden. So it's going to be tough for the Ravens to make the playoffs. And like I said, if they don't, I see them firing Harbaugh. So we're just going to have to wait and see how it all ends up. But that's all I got to say about that. Next up, we're going to be talking about anything else going on in the world of football. We're going to talk a bit about the Redskins not telling Kirk Cousins about them trading for Alex Smith and give my thoughts on it. So that's going to be it for this segment. So stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
GSMC Football Podcast. So far in today's show, we made my pick for the Super Bowl, picked the Patriots. What else did we talk about? We talked about the Hall of Fame, talked about how it's an embarrassment, yes, an embarrassment that Terrell Owens is not in the Hall of Fame yet, and that he probably won't be again this year. We talked about the Ravens, talked about how it's pretty likely that John Harbaugh probably won't be back with the Ravens after this year. All right. Talked about that. And for this segment, we're going to talk a tiny bit about Kirk Cousins and how the Redskins didn't let him know that they were trading for Alex Smith. I'll give my thoughts on that. But I was thinking too, during the break, there's going to be a time where there's no Tom Brady and there's no Bill Belichick. And the NFL is going to change big time. Like, it's going to be like a void almost. So I don't want to talk too much about it right now because I want to talk about Kirk Cousins a bit. But then after that, we're going to spend a lot talking about the Patriots. That's going to be like, like just one of those, like the Kirk Cousins thing. We're talking about that because it's kind of news, but it's not like really big news or anything like that. But you know how sometimes I just have thoughts, and we talk about that for the fourth segment. That's pretty much what it's going to be. So let's start off with Kirk Cousins, all right? Kirk Cousins, obviously, Alex Smith was traded Tuesday night. Kirk Cousins didn't find out about it till Wednesday morning. And I think there was an ESPN article about it. It says that Kirk Cousins said, let me see if I could find it again. Let me see. I think Kirk Cousins, it was a surprise. Yeah, I said the Alex Smith trade was a surprise. And I kind of didn't understand that at first. And then now I kind of do, now that I thought about it. As far as it being a surprise to Kirk Cousins, that makes me think that he could have saw himself back in Washington. All right? Because I know he wasn't going to sign a deal or anything like that till he figured out if they were going to or look for a deal or like work a deal out with Washington or anything like that until he like knew if they were going to franchise him or not. All right, so he wasn't going to try and work a deal with them until after that. So with him being surprised by it, it sounds like he had it in his mind that, you know what, I could, like if they offer me, like if it's the right offer, then I could be back here. All right, so now that makes me think, well, maybe the Redskins messed up a bit here, because if it's a surprise to Kirk Cousins, like I said, I mean, obviously he saw a scenario where, you know what, yeah, I'll be back in Washington if the right contract is offered. So like that was kind of like an eye-opener to me there. And as far as the Redskins telling him that they were trading for Alex Smith, I mean, what's the point of telling Kirk Cousins that, hey, we're trading for your replacement? I mean, he's going to find out the next day or whatever. I mean, I just don't get it. Like, reporters and stuff are saying, yeah, they should have let him know and all that. But really, should they have? I mean, if anything, that's just Kirk. If I'm Kirk Cousins, I said, oh, well, all right, that means I'm going to sign with Denver or some other team. And I think that Kirk Cousins wanted, like now that I'm starting to think about it all and put it together one by one, I'm starting to think that Kirk Cousins probably wanted to be back in Washington, but only with a long-term deal. And not like he said, like I think it's been said too, like he was fine with being franchised also, because like if he was franchised, he'd be making like $34 million, and if they put the transition tag on him, he'd be making $28 million. So either way, he was happy with it, but I think he wanted to end up back in Washington with a long-term deal more than anything. Now that I'm starting to think about it all. So it's kind of weird thinking about it now, but nonetheless, I mean, Washington doesn't owe it to Kirk Cousins to tell him, hey, we're trading for your replacement, just like Kirk Cousins doesn't owe it to them to negotiate a long-term contract before he finds out if they were planning on franchising him or whatnot. All right, so I mean, no one knows anything. No one knows anyone anything in this league or in professional sports. The more we learn, the more we realize that, the more it'll get better for us. But nonetheless, I mean, yeah, I don't get how reporters saying, oh, it's wrong for the Redskins to not tell Kirk Cousins and all that. And they're going to say, like, oh, yeah, they botched this entire thing. Yeah, they did botch it. All right. They did have two really good quarterbacks at one time. I mean, Robert Griffin. Yeah, one thing about Robert Griffin, too. He's starting to grow. I'm not really liking Griffin too much. All right. Because when this trade happened or whatever, he tweeted out, oh, they're all going to find some way to blame it on me. Dude, get over yourself. No one cares about Robert Griffin anymore. No one's going to blame you for everything. All right? You in Washington was so long ago, it feels. No one cares anymore. All right? I mean, yeah, his career went downhill after he pretty much blew his knee out in that playoff game, I think it was, and got hurt. But, I mean, we don't care about Robert Griffin III anymore. He's old news. So for him to go out and do that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I didn't really like it. But, I mean, I guess he does have some I mean, you could tell he still hates Washington, at least the front office and all that, because of how they didn't want him and all that. But they really did mess up this whole situation with the two quarterbacks. You had two really good quarterbacks. I don't know why they never paid Kirk Cousins either. I mean, I don't know. This is weird. But nonetheless, I mean, I like the Alex Smith being with Washington. So we're going to have to wait and see how it all ends up. But now for Kirk Cousins, if I'm him, I'm going to Cleveland or I'm going to Denver. If I'm Cousins, I'm probably thinking Denver more than Cleveland. But if Cleveland throws that big contract out here and they tell me, oh, yeah, we're drafting Saquon Barkley too, I'm going to Cleveland probably. I'm not sure. It'd be a tough decision. I need to think about myself as Kirk Cousins, think about where I would go if I was Kirk Cousins more. But nonetheless, I mean, Redskins don't really owe him a thing as far as letting him know. So here we are to the next topic of this fourth segment. The NFL without Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Think about it for a sec. I really just remember why football, the first time I remember watching an NFL season was about 2003. All right. I was about 7 years old at the time, and ever since then, it's pretty much remembered everything since then. And there's always been one constant in my time watching football and remembering it since the year 2003. And that was Tom Brady and Bill Belichick own the National Football League. All right. They win, you watch, and that's it. They are the ultimate team, ultimate quarterback, ultimate coach. And there's nothing you can do to stop them because they know what it takes to stop you. All right, there's going to be a time where these two retire. And you know what? There's been talk about them maybe riding off into the sunset after this year. Don't forget, we did have that ESPN article about how there was tensions between Kraft, Brady, and Belichick. And you know what? That I'm not even sure how much I believe into that article anymore, just because of that garbage they posted about LeBron going to possibly having a meeting with the Warriors. I mean, I know this is a football show, but I'm still not over that. Listen to the GSMC Sports podcast to hear my thoughts on it if you want to. But nonetheless, I mean, there was that article, and let's say it is true. I mean, it doesn't seem too far off for them to go out and ride off into the sunset after this year. All right. But just imagine an NFL, a league without Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. It's like, and I don't mean to be offensive or anything. It's like living under a dictator or something like that, hypothetically. All right. And then obviously they rule your country year after year. And that's all you know since you've been born. That's all you know. They rule the country. They own it. And then eventually the dictator's gone. And now it's a democracy. And you don't know anything about it because all you've known was this dictatorship. It's basically I'm comparing that, if you don't get what I'm saying right now, I'm saying Tom Brady and Bill Belichick have pretty much been dictators over this league and pretty much have controlled it since they've been around since 2001. Obviously, Bill Belichick has been around a bit longer longer than that. Obviously, he was the defensive coordinator with the Giants, and then he had the whole thing with the Jets, was the head coach with the Browns for a bit. But nonetheless, I mean, the dictatorship of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick has been going on since 2001. That's all I've ever known in the NFL. I don't know what it's like to see other teams be successful and pretty much see different teams in the AFC Championship year after year. All right, Tom Brady played in my favorite team's division, and I've pretty much had no hope as far as my team winning the division since 2003. I mean, it's just been ridiculous to see this amount of excellence come out of that team. I think the Raiders, what is it? Their old slogan used to be the commitment to excellence. That's really the Patriots. The Patriots are the golden standard of the NFL. Probably the greatest. This run that they've been on is the greatest run by any NFL team in the history of the NFL. And once they're gone, it's going to be weird for fans. I'll tell you that much. I know fans probably, I can't wait till they retire. I can't wait till they're gone. Just wait till they're gone. And you're like, wow, this is different. You don't know any better. So yeah, it's gonna be weird. Like I said, I wouldn't be shocked. Tom Brady says, you know what? I'm retiring. That's it for me. All right, and the same with Belichick. I mean, let's say that Robert Kraft did push Belichick to go and trade Garoppolo. Belichick, if you watched that the two Bills 30 for 30 yesterday on ESPN, you saw that Bill Belichick did not like when owners got in the way. That's one of the reasons why he left the Jets. Because it was going to be either Woody Johnson or James Dolan owning the Jets, and he didn't like either of them. So that's why he got out and left. So it's going to be interesting to see. Maybe Robert Kraft got too involved, and maybe Bill Belichick leaves. I mean, I doubt that it happens, but like I said, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked, and we're going to have to get used to an NFL one day where they're both gone, and it's going to be pretty much everyone finally beating everyone. It's going to be balanced. So we'll see how it all ends up. Can't wait for the Super Bowl, though. It's going to be a fun one. Hope it's close. But like I said, I think the Patriots are going to win. We're going to wrap up this podcast right now. So far, in today's show, we talked about the Super Bowl. Talked about how it's a disgrace that Terrell Owens isn't in the Hall of Fame. Talked about John Harbaugh and how it wouldn't be surprising if the Ravens don't make the playoffs and he loses his job. And we talked about if the Redskins owed it to Kirk Cousins, tell him that, hey, we're traded for your backup. So that's going to wrap it up for the GSMC Football Podcast. Thanks for listening. As always, I'm your host, Jesse Tapia. We're going to be back on Monday to recap the Super Bowl. So it's going to be interesting to see what we're going to be talking about that day. We're going to be talking about an Eagles win, or we're going to be talking about Tom Brady winning his 6th Super Bowl. So, like I said, that's going to wrap it up for today's podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll be back Monday, so stay tuned, and we'll talk to you later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.